Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today, I want you to be fired up about the book entitled ABCs of Performing Art. Its author is Kristy, Irvin, and I am going to tell you just a little bit more about Kristy. Now, her book ABCs of Performing Art, Leading People to Christ Through Creativity, is a collection of tools and information gathered to help clergy and lay people share Christianity in a creative way. In addition to a lot of helpful resources, she says, there is a script for a play, for Bible studies, and a church service, all included in one volume. Now, living in Orlando, Florida, she and her late husband spent many years in ministry and doing ministry in a creative way. I love that. I have many people that I know that are into edutainment, and I think that it is an awesome way to share the Word of God. Now, you guys, you know what I'm going to tell you next. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I love the title of your book, but before we get into that, I just want to ask you a little bit about who you are. What makes Kristy tick? Is being in the arts something that you've always enjoyed doing, or did you find that kind of piqued your interest a little later on in life?
It piqued my interest later on in life because I knew that I always had the talent to do things, but I was always told there's no way you could do them. And that's why I started ministry.
Now, is being in ministry something that you always aspired to do as well?
Yes, I always knew I wanted to, but I was told that you couldn't share the gospel in ways like that. And that's one of the reasons why I got started in clowning.
Now, becoming an author, is that something that you figured was just the next logical step for you, like that was the appropriate step? Or was it a suggestion of others, like, we love what you have to say, you should put this in written form? How did you decide that being an author was next?
I wasn't really deciding to become an author. I just outlined my book on a church bulletin during the Advent season of 2013 and just kind of threw it aside and picked it up the next year. And my pastor was talking about vision for 2015, and I just had a vision that I wanted to do something to get God's word out other than just let it sit there. So that's why I wrote my book.
I love that. Now, the title of your book, ABCs of Performing Art. Why did you choose such a title?
I chose the title ABCs because I didn't want to say that it was just one performing arts, because there's so many performing arts out there. And I figure if you said ABCs, it would include all performing arts, A through Z.
I love that. I love that. Now, as far as writing the book and making sure that, or thinking that right now was the appropriate time for all that you offer in this book, and I love so much that you have to offer. Why was it important to get the word out now?
Well, the book's been out since 2016, but I thought it would be a perfect way to get it out now because of the coronavirus, being that parents and grandparents have kids at home, it's also a perfect book for lay people to have other than just clergy, clergy. And to go out, like I said, have them go out and purchase the book because it could help with the performing arts as well for kids because it's written on a kid level.
Oh, I do like that. Okay, so our younger people would be able to participate and be able to learn. I really, really like that. Now I'm going to go back to your bio, and I'm going to ask you. You mentioned that there are some additional resources. Let's see. There's a script for a play, 4 Bible studies, and our church service all in one volume. Amazing. I love the idea that you have done that. Why was it, and if you don't mind, I want to go through each one of those. Why was it important to have a script for a play?
Well, I did the script. Well, first of all, I always loved the script. And I felt like it was important, too, because it expresses how you can take the Bible verse, Matthew 11, which is just kind of based off the 4:11, I'm sorry, where it talks about the where it calls Satan the great deceiver, and you can just take that and rewrite it in your own words. And I also think when we rewrite stories, it's all about storytelling.
It really and truly is, and I love how creative people are when it comes to plays, because you have to be able to convey your message in such a way that people are not only able to hear it but see it and understand what you're trying to say. So I love that. Now, for Bible studies, why did you include the Bible study, and why 4? What? Because someone may be saying, well, why not 3 or why not 7? Why did you choose 4 Bible studies?
I chose 4 because I didn't want to get too much, but I also had written it in each one. If you go back and read the book, each one of those can be in a form of Bible study. You can also ignore the Bible study and still set up your own play, your own drama, and your own everything. And I didn't want to go overboard, but I also wanted to try to make my point to be able to, for Christianity, to be able to say, a lot of people say magic is not in the Bible. Well, if you go back and read, magic talks about the sorcerers, and it is actually in the Bible. And so I wanted to make my point. That you can still be a Christian and use magic in a godly form, because there's no magic to it. Eyes are your hands are quicker than the eyes, and if you go back to that one verse in the magic section, you'll see that.
Now, for the church service, how did you decide what you wanted to include in the church service?
I knew I always wanted to do a foot washing service, because not too many people do a foot washing service, and I think it's appropriate that we do a foot washing service, especially now with all the riots and all the corona and everything that's going on, and that no one person is above the other person. And I think that's when we try to say one versus the other when we wash other people's feet.
Now, I love the fact that you have that you've chosen to include that. I don't think that people understand the importance of it, or they've forgotten. Maybe I should say, maybe they've forgotten the importance of it, and what a wonderful reminder to place in the service as well. Now, when you were writing the book, and you mentioned that it's also great for our little ones, but when you were writing the book, were you very mindful of who your audience was, like who you were writing the book for? Did you want to make sure that you were including, from little kids to adults, or did you find that you simply were writing and it's just age appropriate for everyone?
It was just age appropriate for everyone because you can make it as hard or as easy. Like take for example, I talked about in the puppet section. I talked about the 7 types of puppets. Well, if you're like me, you always have a flashlight here because of the hurricane season. So you always have a flashlight, and then you put your hand in front of the light, and therefore you got your own puppet because you've got your hands. You've got you can use a sock puppet. You could use a bag puppet, and you can do little. I mean, you have to do it age appropriately, but you can create just about anything. And every story has 2 sides to it, like I always tell Jonah and the whale from the whale's perspective rather than the human perspective.
You tell the story. Let me make sure I heard that correctly. You tell the story from the perspective of the whale, not from the perspective of the person.
Right.
I like that. Now, without giving away all of the story, because I want folks to buy the book, can you give us a little sample of what you mean by that?
Well, when you think about it, the fish was just like swimming around, and then he ate this human, and he got sick, and how he must have felt.
Right. That's true. Nobody thinks really about the whale that has this human in his belly, how he must have felt about that. That is very, very true. I love it. Love it. Now, we have about a minute left in this part of the show, but before we go to break, I wanted to ask you about how you read the book. Is it in chapters, and we should read it from first page to last page, or did you make it so that we can just open up and start reading? How should we read the book?
I will say not everyone is going to read every section. It's written in sections, and each section is a different subject.
Okay. Gotcha. Alrighty, everyone. It is time for us to go to break. But before we do, Kristy, if you could please, can you remind everyone what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
It can be found on Amazon and my Facebook, which is Kristen Irvin, and it's my Facebook page.
Gotcha. Alrighty, everyone. We'll be back right after this.
Discovery. No, just a sec.
What would it look like if we listened more? Could the right voice, the right set of words, bring us all just a little closer? Get us to open up, even push us further? It could, if we took the time to listen. The most inspiring minds, the most compelling stories. Download Audible and listen for a change.
What a crazy year it has been. Anyone out there feeling just a little bit lost right now? Well, no problem. Join me in learning how we can turn fear into confidence that creates cash. I'm a part of a series that helps everyone pivot during these times of uncertainty. Simply visit helpmepivot.com and access this free mastermind that includes not only myself, but international experts sharing their secrets on how to turn this time into a time of opportunity. Simply visit helpmepivot.com.
And And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. You know what I want to do in the show? I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you. So today we are talking about the book ABCs of Performing Art. My guest today is Kristy Irvin, and you guys know that I love giving you as much information as I can, not only on the performing arts, such as music and opera and all of that, but I also want for you to be able to perform that art in your ministry, in your church, because there's nothing like being able to share the good news of the gospel with those who come. Usually that only happens for 2 times a year, many times, for Easter and for Christmas. But I think that we can do it so many more times in the year and reach especially our young people. Now, Kristy, before we went to break, you were saying that there are different sections of the book, and you would read the one that is most appropriate for you at that particular time. Can you tell us a little bit more about those sections? What does it cover?
Yes, and it covers the 9 major performing arts, which are ballooning, and it tells you how to get started. It also talks about clowning, and it talks about dance, and then drama, which we already talked about, and magic and mime, and puppetry. It describes the 7 types of puppetry, also storytelling, and ventriloquism. And it also includes the last page, which is 1 page on Chalk Talk, which is now, that was invented in 1890, but has now become very popular due to the UPS ad in 2000.
Now, I love that you have included so many different ways to express yourself, so many different things, that it's not just for the person who feels that, well, I'm not an actor or actress, I don't know how to run lines, but that you've included so many other modalities, and I think that's amazing, especially when you talk about doing clowning and all of that. What made you decide that, there may be a kid out there who wants to pantomime, or who wants to clown, who wants to do this way? Why was it important that you include that?
Because I feel there's a lot of kids out there that are not sports oriented, and I think all our schools are very sports oriented, and there's a lot of people that aren't very sports talented, like me, myself, and it gives us an opportunity you could do puppets, which is behind, for those that are shy, which is behind the scenes. You could do ballooning, which actually you're out front and you're teaching other kids how to do balloons, but you tell a story with your balloon. You could do magic and mime and all kinds of talent that's out there that's not just acting, and it's not just music or singing.
I love that. What a very mindful way to especially get youth involved in church as well. You never know how that's going to be received in their heart, in their spirit, and I think that's awesome. And you're right. There are some kids out there that are not inclined to go the sports route. They want to do something else, and what a beautiful way for them to be able to express themselves. Now, we kind of touched on this a little bit in the beginning, but I want to kind of circle back to it, and that is purpose. So many times an author has a particular purpose in which they write a book. They're trying to share something that they have learned along the way. They're trying to help someone else, prevent them from going, making a left instead of making a right, or whatever. What do you feel was your purpose? What was your motivation, your inspiration for writing this book?
Well, it started out with like I said, we had been in ministry for years and years, and everybody would always ask me how I got started. And then my husband passed away, due to brain cancer. He said he would always write a book on how he got started, and so I kind of wrote it for him and as a dedication to him. But I wanted people to know kind of how to get started on whatever subject. Like I said, people may only read the first chapter of the book and then toss the rest of the book, and that's okay. That's why this book is so good, because it's one resource for all different subjects. And I also found out there was not one book for all the different subjects. There's tons of books on each individual subject, but not one as a resource.
You know, I love that when we have a tendency to follow our calling or follow our purpose, and how it really and truly does make a difference, and the end result is so amazing. I love that. Now, for so many people, they listen to the show every day. Thank you so much for listening to the show every day. And so I expose them to, you know, various types of books and so many different authors to help them become their best. So someone may be saying, you know what, Dr. Angela, I hear what you and Kristy are talking about, but there's another book out there that might be, you know, piquing my interest. So my question, Kristy, is for that person. What makes your book different than perhaps some other books that are similar to yours that are on the market right now?
Well, I think my book promotes creativity, and as you can see by the title, I think my book promotes creativity, and you can take my book and run with it, because everybody has a God-given mind and imagination. And so it's basically for everybody to use their own imagination and get the gospel out there. It's all about storytelling. I mean, there is a section in storytelling, but it's all about storytelling. And I think people are willing to listen to stories rather than just standard preaching. Because, like, I had a friend who he was supposed to preach on the street corner, and he preached, and he had eggs thrown at him. But then the next day he did the same thing in a clown costume, and they had to actually call the police because there were so many people who wanted to hear what he had to say. So just by using your creativity, and because he did it in clown form, and people just want to hear, they want to listen, but it's not just the gospel shoved in their face.
You know, I love how being creative and bringing it to people where they are, and I think that that's what makes it so important. That we forget that not everyone wants to hear it the way that perhaps you were introduced to it. Not everyone can receive it at the same time in their lives as perhaps you were when you received it. That people are different, and we need to allow for the expression of sharing the gospel to be as different as people are. That it's though we may have the instruction, the information, how we share that with people is so important. Perhaps sitting down and having a coffee is appropriate for some people, but for that other person who says, hey, I love clowns, and to have something that you really love, being a clown, to share the good news of the gospel with you, man, that's just the cherry on top there. So I think that's awesome that definitely could happen. Now, if there are one or two things that you really want for someone who purchases your book to gather, to get out of the book, what are the main things you want for someone to get out of your book?
I would say the main thing is read it and use your imagination, because every story, whatever story you have to tell, everybody has a story that's unique to them, and whatever story you have to tell, you can tell it. A story always has two sides. Like I said, when I went back to Jonah the whale, some people know it from the human side, some people know it from the whale side. There's two sides to every story. So just be creative and use your imagination.
I love that. Just being able to use your imagination. Now, with the way that you have the book written, and you're working with younger children, is it okay for perhaps a teenager, someone who's 16 or 17, would they be able to read your book and be able to help someone who's perhaps elementary school age, or do you need to be more of an adult because you need to have a better understanding of the faith to be able to share it?
No, not at all. You can start with that wherever you want to start. So, yeah, if you have a little bit of faith, you can go a long ways. And for somebody who somebody who is even a non-Christian could purchase the book and use all the skip all the Bible verses, do the Bible studies, look them up, even if they're not a Christian, and tell their own stories, because everybody has their own stories to tell. And even if they're a non-Christian, they could still use the book on how to do the performing arts.
I love it. I love it. Well, we have about 2 minutes left in the show, but before I let you go, Kristy, I would love to just, open up the floor to you, give you an opportunity to, if there's any particular wit or wisdom, if there are any tips that you would want to give to someone who purchases the book and perhaps wants to use the play or the Bible studies in their own ministry or at their own church. Do you have any last words that you would like to share with our listeners today?
Yes, I would. If you, for those that do want to use it, it would make great vacation Bible school material because you can tone it down or do it at the age level, and you can do it where the parents could do it at the same level as a child could do the same section, but just tone it down a little bit. And it's age appropriate for everybody.
I love that, and thank you so much for making it age appropriate for everyone. I think that, truth be told, many times adults like to have stuff that's kind of given to them in a very simple way as well. We don't always want to have to be so analytical. We want to be able to just kind of sit down and just have it explained to us quite simply with everything that's going on in the world. So thank you so much for doing that. Well, Kristy Irvin, I want to officially again say thank you for being on the show, for sharing your book with us, and for spending time with me here this morning. Before I let you go, if you could please, can you remind everyone, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
The title of the book is ABC's Performing Arts, Leading People to Christ Through Creativity, and it can be found at Amazon.com or Lulu.com, and you can look me up on my Facebook page, Kristy Irvin, and also you can email me. My email address is kjoybringers@gmail.com, and I'd love to stay in touch with you.
Thank you again for being on the show. And listeners, thank you as well for tuning in and spending time with us this morning. As always, I hope that the Lord will continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.